Imagine this. You're a rural, impoverished farmer living in a bamboo hut. Your whole livelihood is planting crops. Chilies, tomatoes, cucumbers. They're your life's income. But there's a problem. Almost 30% of your crops spoil in 2 days under Indonesia's hot and humid climate. This is huge, but there's nothing you can do, really. I mean, your parents who were farmers had this problem, and so did their parents. So it seems that you've inherited this, and without the available technology, you have nothing you can do. I first came around this problem when I was installing solar systems in these villages with my club engineering off-grid as part of another project. I noticed heaps of fruits and vegetables piled up in the corner of a hut and saw that many of them were spoiling. I inquired the villagers about this, but they simply stated their problem as if it were a fact, as if it were some insurmountable problem they could not overcome. Maybe some of you are like me, turning the impossible to the possible, trying to push past conventional boundaries to give birth to game-changing solutions. Problem solvers. I wondered if I could do anything about this. When we think of preserving food, we think of fridges and freezers and Freon, and it's natural. I mean, it has a ubiquitous use in our lives. But when you think off the grid, where there isn't a single spark of electricity, it gets a little bit more complicated. So at home, I researched available cooling methods and discovered the Zier pot fridge, an ancient Egyptian cooling method that exploits the concept of evaporative cooling. The system consists of 2 clay pots, sand, water, and a cloth. Throughout the day, water evaporates from the damp sand through the porous outer pot. And when water evaporates, changing states from water to gas, it absorbs the latent heat of its surroundings, effectively cooling the inner pot. The wet cloth is placed over the pots to prevent heat from leaking into the containers. So interested, I salvaged 2 clay pots and emulate the system. When I tried it out, I got a initial degree drop of 2 degrees Celsius. And it's not bad for Indonesia's high humidity, but I keep going. I grind the surfaces of the clay pot to rid it of dirt accumulated over the years and to reopen pores, allowing for faster evaporation. 4 degrees Celsius now, but still not good enough. I manipulate different variables, like the amount of sand, the amount of water, the type of cloth, and finally, I get a peak of 5 degrees Celsius below ambient. As the efficacy of the system increases, so does my curiosity. I'm filled with a sense of possibility, and I wonder to what extent I can lower the temperature to, so I do not stop. But I do take a step back and think of a different approach. I make my own system tailored to Indonesia's high humidity and decent wind speeds. I first think about the shape of the box. Surely there can be a better shape than a thick, bulky flower pot. I consider many shapes and discover that the cube is most practical because it has an ideal surface area to volume ratio, and it's really easy to build and mass produce. I figured 40 centimeters would be a good starting point. To make use of Indonesia's wind speeds, I make the receptacle of the box as thin as possible, and for that, I use cotton cloth. The system works when it's wet, doused with water. And how it works is that when wind passes through, it passes through the water evaporation-induced chilled cotton cloth, which loses heat and cools the crops in the insides. I think about how to retain the coolness in the system and fit aluminum mesh. My first prototype was pretty cool. I mean, literally too. There's a 10 degrees Celsius drop below ambient, which was pretty impressive. It was so cool that when I put a soda can inside and took it back out, water condensed on the sides. I looked at the beads of water flowing down and know that it is the fruition of perpetual re-engineering. Every degree Celsius lower I got, the more fuel it gave me to push forwards. in evaluation of the system, I actually find that the aluminum mesh had negligible effects. So the price of the box drops from $10 to $5. Now each farmer can preserve twice as much produce. So I sent several of these boxes with the help of my friend to some farmers in Tianjin for testing. A month later, I hear back and they tell me that it actually works. They're actually using it to prolong the shelf life of many of their crops. What started off as a fun, personal project turned into something more meaningful and impactful. From then, I saw technology as a catalyst for positive social change. And to me, this moment represents the power of a simple idea and how uniting technology with life results in a sum that magnifies the individual. But this box's journey has just begun. For one, engineering off-grid is currently trying to use PVC pipes as the structure of the box instead of wood. It's cheaper and more durable. Also, currently farmers need to manually douse the water several times a day. So engineering off-grid is in the process of building a controlled water dripper system that keeps the box perpetually wet over the day so that farmers won't have to keep dousing water over it. I used to think that in a world where technology has progressed to the point where we can send probes to Pluto, people, let alone young people, can't do much. But this fundamentally basic innovation is a testament to the opposite. And with that, to all you tinkerers out there, I urge you to challenge yourselves, build something, and improve your community. Thank you.